What's up, everybody? Welcome to The Stack. I'm Alex.
I'm Justin.
I'm Pete.
And we got a big one because DC Comics is back on Wednesdays. The whole gang back together again. So nice to see.
None of this early access junk. We're back to business.
This is a big stack. Maybe too big, but there's a lot of bangers in here that I'm excited to get into.
I love when Pete gets us a quick stack judgment right at the top. He's like, too big, medium big, way too big, or just big. There's never small in Pete's department.
Yeah, Pete is he's actually vice president in charge of 3 Bears. So there you go.
That's yeah.
Because you're determining if things are too big,
just
medium
right.
big, or just...
He's sort of a Pennsylvania Goldilocks.
Why don't we get into it? Because there are a lot of medium big to big titles to talk about. Kicking it off with Absolute Power, #1 from DC Comics, written by Mark Waid, art by Dan Mora. This is a story that DC has been building to for years at this point through various books. Amanda Waller is making some big moves on the DC universe to discredit the heroes with literal disinformation put throughout the internet. Very topical, Mr. Waid, leading up to the event that we already knew was going to happen. This was the whole point here. It was teased, where she takes away the powers of the superpowered heroes and villains, potentially, of the DC universe, working with the Brainiac Queen and Failsafe, 2 villains, among other characters. With all this build-up here, what did you guys think? Was this a big kickoff? Are you excited about this? Do you think this worked as a story? All those things we talk about when we talk about comic books.
I thought this was a big story. For all of the Amanda Waller exhaustion we've been feeling and talking about on this show, I still think it delivered because it was more horrifyingly done than I expected. From the opening sequence into the disinformation sort of proof that we got here. Wow, really nice, Pete. I thought that was really great. And I think the menace feels real, despite the fact that it is Waller's always doing menacing things. Mm-hmm. This feels like a bigger step. It feels like a larger story. It feels like it will have larger repercussions and isn't just a mini event. And man, if known as powers, Batman's gonna be hitting, right?
Now for commentary from somebody who has never read nor seen any fiction before and doesn't know how heroes and villains work, let's turn it over to Pete LePage.
Yay! So, who's having fun, right? All the villains are winning, and Amanda Waller is running wild, and Green Arrow turned his back on anyone he has ever loved in his whole life.
I love that part.
Yeah, this is just awful on all fronts. And super
Pete, real quick. When I cover my face, do you think I've gone away? Do you think I've gone away forever? I don't know if you have object permanence. Peekaboo, peekaboo.
And didn't we just beat Failsafe? Like, how is he already back? You know what I mean? Like,
Here's my question, just to back up what Pete is saying.
Then...
Just to back up what you're saying, Pete. Usually when I read a big event comic, particularly from the big 2, like Marvel and DC, in the first issue, the heroes win, and they just keep bowling perfect strikes every single time. Win down the board. This was really disappointing because they seem to be losing, and that's the first time I've experienced that, right, Pete?
Yeah. I know how comics work, you assholes. And...
Then let me ask you a question. This is all jokes aside and all meanness aside. I can't wrap my brain around what it is about this specific story where the villains are winning at the beginning and we know the heroes are going to win at the end. Why is that bothering you here? I'm honestly asking because I'm just not sure.
Setup's important, and I think that if you're going to go into a big event, you like to see who the villain is, or you know what I mean? And Waller's this person who has always kind of like been in the background making moves, but never did the full Lex Luthor where I'm going to do this. And I think that like, I don't like Waller. I don't want to see Waller. You know what I mean? Like, it's just not a fun villain for me. I'm not excited about Waller winning. I'm not excited about seeing Failsafe again. I'm not excited about Green Arrow, who worked so hard to finally get his family together, to then turn around and say, fuck soups, fuck powers. I think I'm like, I'm not having fun. I don't mind when there is conflict or when the villain wins in the beginning because we get to battle. But what are we going to see? A final scene where someone has a debate with Waller? She's not going to fight. So what are we doing? You know what I mean? What's the end game? What am I to get excited about?
I bet you we're going to get a
definitive... And
definitive...
that scene that we saw before, I'm sorry, Justin, but the scene we saw before when she raised a child in a bunch of lies and bullshit after she kidnapped that kid was heartbreaking as fuck.
That was the last issue. That was Absolute Power Grad Zero, not this issue.
But, sorry, the shitty Zero issue. But
I do want to mention, just before you get to it, Justin, thank you for saying that, Pete.
Yes.
We'll loop back to that stuff, but I appreciate all your thoughts on that. Well said. Justin?
Well, and honestly, when I read this and I saw the, I mean it too, the Green Arrow moment, I was like, oh man, Pete's going to hate this. And I understand that because you don't like it when a hero that you genuinely believe in.
Root for.
Is sort of, you root for goes the other way. But it's all valuable story points that I think will be meaningful. And I think, I predict that at the end of this, we will get a definitive break from Amanda Waller, perhaps from the tip of a Green Arrow, potentially. And I would also say,
I'm not excited about that. If Green Arrow shoots Amanda Waller, that's not a good look either.
Well, it might be. We'll see how the story goes. And the only thing I was going to say is, like, I feel like they took that scene from, is it Superman 3, when the computer sucks that lady into it? And that's like the essential horror moment that they're going to process throughout this whole arc, because it feels like they're already there.
I will say, now that I have a better understanding of what you're thinking, Pete, I agree with both of you guys that I did appreciate and like the looming horror of this. This was a pretty scary book in terms of what is happening to everybody in the DC universe to a respect that I was not expecting. I was also not necessarily expecting the real world disinformation thing to be going on there necessarily.
Agreed.
And making it very present. I understand why they went there. But at the same time, I agree with you, Pete, that I think they've well, maybe this isn't exactly agreeing with you, but I think they've taken Amanda Waller too far. And I feel like there needs to be an explanation there, because she has gone from somebody who operates in the shadows and does murky stuff to teaming up with two straight up villains doing evil things to take over the world. And I understand perhaps what they're saying is, this is the place we are on outside of our window, so let's see it reflected in our comic books as well. Perhaps this is as simple as that. We also have, which I'm very excited about, a mini-series coming up from John Ridley called Absolute Power Origins that's going to tell the definitive origin of Amanda Waller, so that might provide some explanation in terms of what her motivation is there and help flesh this out. We'll see what happens, but I agree with you on that part. I think it's too much in terms of what she's doing. Just to throw out about the Green Arrow thing, that scene I thought was great, and the reason I thought that scene was great is because it makes logical sense, the progression of Green Arrow from where he has always been as a hero to him saying, no, heroes have gone too far. This is causing too much destruction. I have told you this for years. We need to be concentrating on humans and people and supporting them and building up the world instead of having our increasingly destructive fights. All of that makes sense. The undercurrent there is, this hurts. He's saying this to hurt Batman as much as possible, but it's so clear that there is going to be a double agent turn there, like you were saying, Justin, and I think that's okay. Like, that indication there is him being like, screw you guys, screw the Justice League, get out of here. That's the part where it's like, nah, he wouldn't do that. And we know, we're not being told, but he's being listened to at this point. So it all follows logically for this character, and I think it's a really good, interesting place for him, and it's going to be so, hopefully, satisfying when he ultimately turns or saves the day.
Also, to touch on something Justin said, the Batman of it all, I love Batman, the fact that he can roll in a superpowered world. You know what I mean? When everybody's brought back to his level, you know what I mean? That doesn't for me really showcase, yeah, he can be smarter, he can do these things and whatever, that's Batman, but like, I think it's more badass that he can, you know, he's just a guy in a cape, You know what I mean?
So
like,
you want Amanda Waller to take away pouches and really get him, you're saying?
really?
One thing I also liked about this issue, just to laud it, is it was Mark Waid who wrote Tower of Babel, right? Am I wrong about that? The one where it was Batman was revealed to have plans to destroy everybody in the Justice League if they went too far. I might be wrong about that, but like...
Isn't that Grant?
Maybe that's... No, that is Grant Morrison. Sorry about that. But like, here we get something that like skirts up against that but never does that, which I appreciated. I thought we were going to get another like, oh, this is Batman's fault again. He did Tower of Babel. He did
it was Mark Waid. You were right.
It was Mark Waid?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think to that point
It was
then... Mark
right
Waid,
after Grant Morrison's World War III series.
yes. So... Mark Waid has already done this, so he's finding a new riff on it, but he's also finding a riff in a way where it's not like this is once again Batman's fault, even though, let's be honest, it kind of is. So
I just want to take a moment and say some positive things about this comic. Some really cool covers.
Nice. I don't know if you need
great
a couple
Dan
moments
Mora
for that.
art. The Dan Mora art is great, and I think Mark
so
Waid
good.
and Dan Mora work really well. There's some very iconic images here, like Superman getting shot and falling from the sky.
Terrifying.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah. And I'm worried about Superman. John being captured by a bunch of Amazos and screaming for his dad. Very upsetting. So,
Yes. The horror was well done in this. So that's why maybe I'm the most hype on this. It seems like.
Seems
and
like
I am
it.
hype. Yeah.
If we're doing a temp check, yeah, you're the most hype.
Yeah.
I'm hot.
Well, let's see how hot we are on this one. Spider-Man Reign 2, #1 from Marvel by Kaare Andrews. This is, per the title, a sequel to what Marvel is calling the most notorious Spider-Man story of all time. Arguable, but it's definitely a notorious Spider-Man story of all time. It was basically the dark Spider-Man returns set in the future with Spider-Man broken, Mary Jane dead, and he has to fight back against a totalitarian state to take back New York City. We're picking up years later. Things have not gotten much better. If anything, they've gotten way worse in this issue.
Much worse.
Thanks to a bunch of events that we're not entirely clear on. Kingpin is the mayor/ruler of New York City now. Spider-Man is addicted to entering a virtual reality world where Mary Jane is still alive and who seems to be the daughter of Black Cat, rescues him and takes him, spoiler here, but it's in the solicits, on a time travel adventure to try to fix things. Plus, old man Miles Morales shows up. There's a bunch of other things going on here. I will say, just to couch this, I believe if I remember correctly, it was like a year or two ago, we revisited Spider-Man Reign here on the podcast. And I recall our take was, you know what? This is actually better than we remember. The Kaare Andrews art, of course, is great. There are the controversial things like Spider-Man killing Mary Jane with his semen.
Yes, Alex. Sorry,
Yes.
did you cut out there? Alex,
Yeah,
I think
sorry.
you cut out for us.
I said semen eventually. And then also there was Spider-Man's penis at one point. So like a lot of
That's
stuff
where the semen
going on.
came from, Alex. That's where the semen came from.
I'm not familiar. Thank you. And it kind of fell apart, if I remember correctly, like by the end, got a little too complicated. That's all that out of the way. This is a new series. We're back years later. What did you guys think about this one?
Well, I was happy that he was wearing underwear, and I feel like
Same about all of us.
The art
Speak for yourself. Speak for yourself.
Oh man! Oh,
I
geez.
knew it. I knew it.
Every morning I wake
loose.
up and say, "Get to the chopper," because I'm going commando.
Oh, boo! Get your
Chopper.
dad jokes out of here. Fucking unbelievable. Yeah, I felt that, first of all, the art's unbelievable. Just really impressive. Fun twist at the end. I mean, what a crazy kind of evil, almost manga anime kind of take for Kingpin here. But yeah, I'm very happy with this start.
I also
was
like
surprised
this.
by.
I always like Kaare Andrews. I know Rain gets a bad look, but I think it's a little out. It's a little pushing it, I think, and hard on our Spidey guy. But this one continues that, but doesn't take it further. I like what we get. This feels like Akira meets some classic Todd McFarlane Spider-Man art. And, it's fun. I like sort of the use of Black Cat here.
Yeah.
A Black Cat is a fun reference. I like that we got out of the Mary Jane stuff pretty quickly. And the Kingpin is a cool, scary villain.
Yeah, the real draw for me here is the Kaare Andrews art. His design of Spider-Man with a big beard, the mask half covering his face, and just
so
like
cool.
the bushy beard there. It is. It looks really good.
Yeah,
the new Black Cat costume is very cool as well. I feel like I need to read a couple more issues to make any sort of determination on this, to have a better sense of what the story actually is, because there's a lot of setup here. But like the previous book, there's a bunch of horrifying images with dead bodies just outside the wall in New York. The Kingpin is grotesque and horrifying as well. I'm surprised, but good start. Scarlett, number 2 from Image Comics, written by Kelly Thompson, art by Marco Ferrari. Scarlett has hooked up with the Akashragi clan? Pete?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know the proper pronunciation.
Ninjas.
But,
She's hooked up with ninjas to try to get her friend Jinx back from them secretly, and is ingratiating herself with the clan. Pete, you're the big fan here. Take it away.
Yeah, this is badass on a whole nother level here. Fucking Storm Shadow showing up. I mean, oh shit, this is some great stuff here. I mean, oh man, I love this. I really, in the first issue, I was like, okay, we're setting things up. I'm not sure, but man, this does such a great job of kicking this to another gear and really kind of leaning into what we're doing here and what this is about. This is about Scarlett going in deep undercover to get Jinx back, away from Cobra, away from Storm Shadow. This is just fantastic action and adventure in such a cool way. I love the art. Kelly Thompson is killing this. My younger G.I. Joe loving self is going bananas. This is awesome. Yo, Joe.
This is, I was super psyched by this. I like that Scarlett has so many pieces of stuff inside her body. That's a cool thing.
Oh,
we got
that was
action
gross.
figure possibilities.
Ew.
That was gross.
Well, you don't
And
have-
I'm so psyched for... Oh, go ahead,
But you
Pete.
don't have a utility belt. You know what I mean? You just got to cut yourself open.
Yeah.
No pouches, Amanda Waller.
Yeah.
But my big takeaway, Pete, is how cool Storm Shadow is. So his whole thing is he shows up and talks and has tea. That is so... I can't imagine the action figure you had when you were a kid with this sick-ass tea set.
Dude,
is the
it's
storm
the
like a tempest in a
cameo
teacup?
that makes it
Is
awesome.
a tempest in a teacup? Is that the storm? And the shadow is how much you're looking at other stuff while he's prattling on and talking too much?
Fuck you, man.
That's the
It's just
shadow?
cool that he's there. Storm Shadow is like the highest level of bad guy ninja there is. Only Snake Eyes can take him down. And like, this is just, it could be setting some shit up. But just seeing Storm Shadow, I mean, making tea
I hope we
or
get to
talking
see...
or-
I hope we get to see Snake Eyes like in line at the DMV or some shit next issue, because that's gonna blow my freaking mind. You know? See that
I
guy
love it. I
renew
don't
that
care.
license?
You're making
Get that
fun of me,
license,
but I
Snake
love
Eyes.
I thought this was very good. I'm not particularly into the G.I. Joe stuff, but Kelly Thompson knows how to write a spy story, and Marco Ferrari is writing the heck out of it. If you haven't already, check out our interview with them about Scarlett #1. It's in the Comic Book Club feed. Let's go over to Batman 150 from DC Comics, written by Chip Zdarsky, art by Jorge Jiménez, Dennis Cowan, and Mike Hawthorne. In the front story, we're following up on a plot line that Chip Zdarsky seeded a couple of issues back with a low-level thug discovering Bruce Wayne as Batman. In this issue, he tries to sell it to the highest bidder to a bunch of villains throughout Gotham City, leading to a surprisingly emotional turn by the end. And in the backup story, we're tying it to absolute power and following the plot line there, how it affects Batman and the Bat family. Justin, I want to go to you first because I keep thinking about something that you were pushing so hard for with Chip Zdarsky's run in terms of why isn't Batman like Batman the Animated Series? This felt like it was directly lifted straight out of that.
Yeah, and I really appreciated this. Like, it feels like Chip Zdarsky, he was like getting his big action story with all of the pieces that and are going into absolute power that he told. We still don't know what's up with the robot hand, but maybe we'll get to that eventually.
No, it's gone. It got replaced by Bruce Wayne's
Clone
rapidly
sacrificed his own hand,
cut off his
so
hand and sewed it onto.
That's why I have clones, so you can mine them for parts.
Yeah, I know. Oh man, I can't wait to do that. I want a new a semen, where the semen comes from. Alex.
Oh wow!
Still not sure. Still not sure.
I will check it out in Rain number 2.
Check it out.
Oh, dude,
We'll check it out.
don't.
But this had like it got to this underlying emotionality that you're saying, and I also appreciated the art had a little bit of like rough around the edge to it that I think contributed a lot and kept it from being full animated series to me. I don't know if it was super bananas, but I guess Pete will tell us that right now.
Yeah, I first off, really awesome covers. This is an interesting collection of stories. I really love the touching kind of story of, Batman not just kind of beating people up, but also trying to pull them up and help them. I thought that was really a cool kind of take on that. Whatever with the tie-in bullshit. But I think an interesting reveal and spoilers here, this kind of idea that a Waller is using a mother box makes things a little bit more interesting to me.
Mm-hmm.
Really? Oh. You love the tech aspect.
Well, at least this way, it's just not Waller being like, I'm... just going bad. There maybe is a bigger evil, more kind of thing going on. You know what I mean?
More of an IT situation.
Sure.
I think Pete is speculating that Darkseid is behind the whole thing, so we'll see. To that point, I appreciate that we are getting these tie-ins in the backup story. Maybe that's how it's going to work going forward, but whatever it is, that felt like an essential part of the story and an essential follow-up of what's happening, which is cool. I love this first story. Like I indicated, this felt like a classic. I was worried about this when I saw it was an Absolute Power tie-in, but knowing it was issue 150, this feels like a good anniversary issue. This gives a tour through the Gotham underworld. It gives us various characters. It shows us why Batman is great. It shows us why Bruce Wayne is great, something that we saw last issue a bit, but we haven't seen in a very long time before that. So really lovely. And I love Dennis Cowan's art. I just thought that was a wonderful tribute to bring in a classic artist work on a very classic tale. Speaking of classic and history, let's talk about Life of Wolverine, #1 from Marvel, written by Jim Zub, art by Ramón F. Bachs. This is taking the entire life of Wolverine and putting it in chronological order. A near impossible task. Pete, was the Zub successful?
Well, I'll tell you what was really interesting, and I kind of want to get your guys' take on this. I almost would rather you read the last 2 pages where it shows historically like where each thing is from, and then read it, because I read it and was like, oh, this is really cool. But then when I saw the kind of notes and the pulls from all the actual comics of where stuff came from, I was like, oh man, this is so much better, and went back and read it, and kind of like knowing the stuff, it made it that much better. I almost wish they put that in the front so that you could have that knowledge as you kind of enjoyed the comic. What do you think of that?
I hear what you're saying. I think Jim Zub did a yeoman's job here with something that is impossible. Like, you cannot square Wolverine's history. You can't square any comic book character's history.
That's a good point. Nobody,
Yeah, you can't. But he did the best job he humanly possibly can here. And I understand what you're saying. Like, I really liked reading those last couple of pages because it provided a lot of necessary context for things where I'm like, I think I vaguely remember this happening, but I'm not sure necessarily. And Ramón F. Bachs' art is good. Like, this is not a slag off at all. This doesn't work as a story because it's not a story that you can tell chronologically. It's a bunch of ramblings.
Yeah, it's a document.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What'd you think, Justin?
I did like it, though. Like, I honestly, like, I feel like anyone who is wanting to pitch or write a Wolverine story, like this is just a great thing to read and be like, oh, I'm going to do a story set here, and pick like your World War I trench warfare Wolverine story, or your like his brief time when he was living and in love with Silver Fox before that was tragically destroyed. And so like I thought that was really cool, and to see it all back to back is something I've at least never read, so I appreciate that. But this issue, along with another Wolverine issue we're going to talk about in the stack, I was like, let's give Sabretooth a little break. Can we get that guy's been around a lot. Like, he could take a little powder for a hot sec. We don't need him.
A powder.
Well, if you don't like cats, you're probably not going to like ThunderCats, Cheetara #1 from Dynamite, written by Soo Lee, art by Domenico Carbone. This is tying into the main ThunderCats series, flashing back in time to show Cheetara on, I don't know,
Thundera, yes.
Sure.
Yeah. Cheetara's on Thundara, and she's there dealing with Thundarium, or whatever.
So it's flashing back in time to show that before it ties into the main series. What do you guys think about this issue?
I thought this was a blast. I really thought interesting choice, kind of making Cheetara the mother of everything. And then just amazing art. I feel like this is a kind of a cool origin story with some tweaks and stuff. But man, just so great to see Panthro. I mean, one of the greatest characters of all time. And anytime you're just seeing him talk or sit there, I don't give a shit what he's doing. Panthro's on a panel, I'm happy as hell.
Wow, what do you love about him so much? The fact that he does machines?
First off, fuck you for trying to make him Donatello. He's so much more than that. Okay?
Sort of is.
He's does the nunchucks, my friend, and they're kind of more advanced chucks than the regulation
those are pretty close to Donatello. I gotta say,
Donatello is a bow staff.
He's got
Michelangelo has the nunchucks. Okay, well then what the fuck?
Instead of eating pizza, he eats calzones, and he says, "I love being a cat."
Yeah.
I live in a waste tunnel.
Now we've done it.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I like this. Oh, yes. Go ahead, Justin, please. Yep. Justin's frozen. Yeah. I really like this. Soo Lee did a great job on Maleficent, so I was a little bit worried taking her off art and just having on her writing, how that would affect it. But I think this has the same sort of lyrical storybook quality that we got from that work over there, so I was very happy to see that. And I think Domenico Carbone matches that very nicely on art. I'm not into this world at all. Like, I don't get it.
You didn't watch ThunderCats growing up?
No, it was bad. It's a bad show. But
well, sure, going back and watching it, it's bad now. But as a kid, you know,
it was also bad. I knew what quality was when I was a child.
Oh, okay, Cornell, take it down a notch. All right, but that cover was really fantastic.
There's several covers. They're all great, and I love them all, not just one of them.
Ooh, wow, one up by Alex's cover love there. I just wanted to say I thought the art in this was fantastic, and I liked the look into Thundara.
Mm-hmm.
It was a nice peek. Panthro seems like a regular guy.
Oh, go fuck yourself, man.
He loves being a cat. Local Man #11 from Image Comics, written by Tim Seeley and Tony Fleecs, art by Tony Fleecs and Tim Seeley. In this issue, we are continuing this new arc where our local man is trying to investigate a weird cultist mystery that, correct me if I'm wrong, seems very Cobra-like. I feel like they're kind of going up against Cobra here is what's happening. But we also got a special guest appearance by Vice President Dan Quayle.
Hey!
Great to see him.
Spoiler, dies. Are you allowed to do that in comic books? Are they going to get arrested? What's happening?
You can't get arrested for killing somebody in a comic book.
No, with vice presidents specifically, if they die in comics, they die in real life. So it's tragic. It's a tragic end. So just be careful out there with the VPs.
I thought this was a ton of fun. This continues to be great. Hilarious moments like when she was like, "It's your superpower. You can fuck with dumb people." I laughed out loud. That's a great line.
Great. That's great stuff. I mean, I love this book. It is great action. In this issue, there's some great sort of horrifying elements, but it's super funny. The characters are super compelling. It's a contained universe that also can go anywhere exploring this like 90s Image Comics patois, and that's awesome. That's awesome.
I also think that this is a great team. You get Seeley and Fleecs together. They're having a blast. Yeah, come on, man. Fleek that Seeley. And I just think it's one of those things where it you can tell that they work great together. They're hysterical, and it jumps off the page. So,
and I just want to say, we
writing.
love this book, regardless of the fact that we were drawn into the book and didn't realize that for months in a very embarrassing way until Tony Fleecs told us.
I didn't find it embarrassing. I found it awesome, especially when I looked at it when he told us live on the show, and then you were like, "Oh no, there's actually much more later in the panel as well." And I was like, "Oh, okay." Still realizing how nice this was.
No, it's awesome. It's awesome they
Very
did
cool.
that. But this is a great book. Definitely check it out. We haven't been bribed.
And just to be clear, Fleecs that Seeley is where the semen comes from.
Oh no!
No. They're going to somehow.
You said
Come on, they're
I
gonna
was
take
about to
our
say,
away.
I was about to say they're going to rub us out from that comic book, but then I realized I shouldn't say that.
No,
But then
that's
you
the
did.
right choice of words. Pete
not
said
have
it
said
first.
Birds of Prey, number 11 from DC Comics, written by, once again, Kelly Thompson, art by Robbi Rodriguez, Javier Pina, and Gavin Guidry. The birds are being sucked through some weird portals that are responding to the specific likes and needs, sort of like Gozer the Garzarian from Ghostbusters, right, Pete?
Yeah, nice sick ref, bro. And I think Justin would agree with this. This is worth it for the art alone. I mean, this is super tight bananas here. Just the shading, the coloring of it. This is just such a cool, badass comic. I'm having such a great time with this. Tons of action. Just great. I can't say enough great things about it. It's great. It's great. It's great.
I agree with you about the art. I feel like this comic started on such a strong foot with the art, but they didn't just continue to do that same thing. The comic keeps exploring different ways of presenting comic book art, and this particular arc has been a little bit sort of wispy with what the story is. But they've really then leaned into that, which I think is so hard to do, to start off in like a sort of a slightly, I don't want to say confusing, it was just like a little vague or coy with what the premise was, and then really take that and use it from a narrative perspective and have it reflected in the art, only in comics.
I also think there's a maybe not even undercurrent, maybe just a current that Kelly Thompson is doing here in this book right now with the various scenarios they get thrown in that are playing on the idea of what we expect potentially from women's comics, that they started off being thrown in a lingerie fashion show, and then they're thrust into a suburban nightmare, and now they're in a back in time fighting dinosaurs, costumes ripped, just barely bikinis hanging off there sort of thing. It's giving us these characters that are very nuanced and interact in a really interesting and mature and fascinating way, but in the scenarios we expect from classic Birds of Prey comics. So I think there's an interesting amount of deconstruction that's going on there at the same time.
Yes,
and I'm
I love
curious
that
to see how much that explicitly gets stated by the end of the arc, if at all. Let's talk about Rogue Sun, number 20 from Image Comics, written by Ryan Parrott and Nick Cotton, art by Abel. Lots of stuff going on in Rogue Sun. This
is your book, Alex. This is your book.
This is my
your number
book
one
that I
baby.
think,
You're your number one baby.
This is my number one baby. I'm gonna throttle my baby a little bit here.
What?
Just a little.
Oh, that's the term. You gotta throttle that baby.
Yeah, throttle that baby. It's getting a little complicated. There's a lot of mythological stuff going on. I still really like the art here, and I think it's
amazing.
it's very fun when we were focusing on this character who is relatively a normal teen trying to be a superhero. But whenever we get into the mythology stuff about him getting necklaces and going to other dimensions, there's a big bad guy, it starts to wisp away from what made this interesting at the beginning, which was a reluctant hero who takes on the mantle of his dad, who he hates, and he's kind of a jerk about it. You know?
Yeah. And I sort of agree with you in that this comic felt like it had all this like sort of a big emotional underpinning to it, especially the last couple arcs, which was great. And now it's sort of become Darkhawk in a like it's sort of become like 90s Darkhawk in a way. And I get that, especially as a palate cleanser. It may be like a very distinct choice from the big emotional moments before and sort of a reset. And let me just say, I also love Darkhawk. So, like, I'm eating this up as well. It's just such a different flavor, to your point.
I'm still having a blast with this. I really love the art. I think the addition to the badass motorcycle lady here was really cool, and I can continue to ride with this.
Amazing Spider-Man Annual 2024, #1 from Marvel, written by Derek Landy, art by Ron Lim and Sarah Pacelli. We are following a bunch of the human Infinity Stones that are wandering around the Marvel Universe. Here, Amazing Spider-Man is encountering the Time Stone, who's a guy named Overtime, and he basically does kind of a Groundhog Day, trying to save a villain who explodes and takes out Spider-Man sometimes, takes out him sometimes, among other things. In the backup story, we are catching up with Philip Cheese Coulson, who's been taken over by the Death Stone.
Don't call him Cheese, man.
That's
his name.
That's what it says on his tombstone.
Not cool.
It says
Cheese.
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 Because that's what kind of tombstone he gets. You know, like, what do you want on your tombstone?
Like, all right. Yeah, I mean, all the stupid time travel stuff aside, I liked what Spider-Man was saying about mistakes and stuff like that.
All the entire plot aside.
No, I just think that time travel, you know what I mean? Like, I'm kind of over it. But I just think that I liked the classic kind of Spider-Man, kind of lesson we got here. I felt like this had a really classic Spider-Man feel to it in such a cool way. I love the art. It got weird at the end, but I still think it was a good idea, and I like the message.
Nice to see Ron Lim's art. Really always takes me back to, again, the 90s and his sort of heyday in comics. From a story perspective, this was interesting to me. There was a Spider-Man annual where Spider-Man is sort of this secondary character by a pretty long shot. And I feel like this event, Infinity Watch, is really putting these characters in the forefront that we just don't know and have no real... They're saying, nope, this is what this is about. And so I do appreciate that. And it does feel like a summer crossover, annual crossover that I'm always talking about. I guess the stories do feel a little surfacey, though. I want to get into it a little bit more. What do you guys
This was I hear what you're saying. I thought this was a fun Groundhog Day-esque tale, but we don't know much more about Overtime at the end here. This also isn't following up on the very strong beginning of the Thanos annual. There's a touch of it, but it's not directly continuing the story. It's mostly its own thing. So I like this. I'm still on board with this, but I do want more of that, like, this is Atlantis Attacks Part 2 of 12 or whatever going on here, you know?
And it may be ramping to that. So, like, that's why I want to keep riding. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's move to an advanced one, Standstill #1. This is coming out August 21st from Image Comics, written by Lee Lowridge, art by Andrew Robinson. This is about a dude who can stop time, and not in the sex criminals way where he does it where the semen comes out, but just any time, honestly. What?
Yeah. He fleeks the Seeley, you're saying.
So I think this is like an interesting, I really think the art's amazing. This is a cool idea, fun execution. I'm looking forward to more. I'm trying not to spoil it.
Oh boy. Oh, that's why you're rushing through. Okay.
Nice. But
I thought this was really good, extremely dark and twisty. There's some great moves that happen throughout this book with the various characters. This definitely explores the idea of somebody who can stop time in a very different way than they did over in Sex Criminals, in a much darker way. Maybe it's because the main character has black hair and is always smirking a little bit, but this felt to me like a Garth Ennis book that wasn't written by Garth Ennis, in terms of the ultra violence and the extreme nature of it, and sort of the very wry, detached nature of the main character. But I was very into this. I really like this quite a bit. I'm curious to see where it goes next.
Yeah, it has some light Rick Remender energy to it, with like the sort of the smile and smirk that you're talking about, Alex. We don't get quite enough information to give us a foothold into what's happening, but the set pieces are really well done and the art is really good.
Mm-hmm. There you go. The Boy Wonder, #3 from DC Comics by Junie Ba. We have been following Damian Wayne in the aftermath of him killing somebody in this Black Label title as he teams up with each Robin individually. This issue, it is Tim Drake's turn in the Red Robin costume. Were you mouthing Red Robin? Was that what you were doing, Pete?
Yep.
Knew it.
Nice. Can't help it.
Can't help it. Gotta have those burgers. Is that what they serve?
Oh my
milkshakes,
God!
probably.
Come on, dude. Jesus H.
Oh, I'm
this like
sorry
a-
that I
a-
don't know what Red Robin serves.
Is
Yeah.
that like a Denny's?
Oh man.
What is it?
Oh my God. Yeah.
Just
I
tell
guess.
us.
Yeah, it's a American style burger place that also has a lot of different sandwiches.
So it's like a Johnny Rockets.
sure.
Sort of like a Burger King.
All right, it's not that. It's more of a sit down. But anyways,
Is it like this? Is it like this? Red Robin.
Yum. Yes, it's exactly that. All right, so love this art style so very much. This is so very cool. Has such a great look and feel to it. I love all the action. Great story. This is an absolute blast. I had so much fun with this comic. This really kicked ass on many levels.
I know why you like it, Pete, and I also know why you, the listener, might like this book. This is like Samurai Jack, the television show.
Oh, yeah.
It really hit me in this issue specifically because I think the story has sort of moved in a more Samurai
It's because
Jack
a
way.
demon keeps showing up and being like,
There it is. That's why I was being coy about it, Alex. But yes, that is. And it is very good though, and I like the device of new Robins each time because it helps refresh the story each issue.
And just in case you're wondering, Justin, yes, I am singing the Samurai Jack theme song in my head.
Red
You're a nonstop
Robin,
jukebox. There it is.
Samurai.
Samurai Jack.
This is great. The art is great in this. I love how much of a handle Judy Baugh has on the different Robins and using them to illuminate more about Damian Wayne's character. The place they leave this issue on is fantastic as well. If you're a fan of any of the Batman characters, this is a must pick up. Grendel, Devil's Crucible, Defiance, #1 from Dark Horse Comics by Matt Wagner. This is continuing the saga of Grendel, a man who has a Venom mask and yet is not Venom.
Oh, go fuck yourself, dude. Don't.
And you know
don't.
he's not Spawn, but he has a Spawn and does Spawn stuff.
No. How dare you? I'm a
Spider-Man.
Grendel head. I love Grendel. This is awesome that Grendel is back.
You're straight up in Grendel's Grundle. That's what you always say, right?
Nope.
That's his website.
I think this is a really, I love the story, a lot of action, tons of violence, amazing art. It's great to have Wagner back doing what I know him for. And just super excited about this and this start. So very cool, kind of post future kind of bullshit, but very, very cool and interesting.
Sort of Mad Max adjacent with a little bit more ninja type stuff happening. I haven't been keeping up with Grendel, so I wasn't quite aware of the continuity, but I thought it was like, he's like, I have to figure out this world. Where should I go to this post-apocalyptic market? And suddenly he's like, you want to buy some sex from these sex people? I was like, whoa, what a weird, that was a weird turn for me when that happened. Because it didn't feel like that was part of this book until it was.
I mean, he's walking by, whatever, but that's
Walking by.
I'm not blaming him. You're walking by you're in a grocery store and you walk past the sex section of the grocery store.
Yeah, exactly. You gotta
get
walk past it. You
You gotta walk past, or you have to pick something up. You never know what you're shopping for. What's on the list?
Now, let me see. I need 2 apples, some Totinos, and sex. Gotta get some sex.
I like it's third. Right after Totino's is sex for Alex. It's a good indicator.
That's how it's sorted. I
It's
can't.
pizza rolls. Yeah, it's not alphabetical, but it's something.
Justice Society of America #10 from DC Comics, written by Jeff Johns, art by Mikel Janin and Marco Santucci. We're continuing to follow Huntress, assembling a team of ostensibly villains who she knows in the future are going to be redeemed in certain ways and trying to redeem them early. Unfortunately for them, one of them is the Legionnaire, who is Mordru, the sorcerer, back in time as a young guy trying to redeem himself. Some stuff happens by the end of this issue. I'm going to throw something out there that really struck me in this one. I think the thing that's not working about this series for me is the Justice Society of America. And what I mean by that is the titular team basically stands around as like, Well, we're just here in a support role, and that's pretty much it. And the main thrust of the story is basically Huntress doing Young Avengers in the DC universe, which is fine. I'm into that. Like, I love the idea of Huntress trapped back in time being like, I got to put together this team of villains to redeem them and make them better. But there is no reason for the Justice Society to be there at all.
So your problem is with the title.
No, my problem is with the team is getting in the way because it's making it too formal and formalized versus not to backseat right Jeff Johns or anything like that, but like
Seems
Huntress
like you are, though.
alone putting together a team of villains, that puts her in a position where she's like, what do I do? I've got no support. I've got to get these people over to my side versus, hey man, I got 12 all-powerful superheroes who are pretty settled and doing totally fine and have zero emotional arcs whatsoever throughout this book. Let them take care of it. It takes the danger away.
I mean, that's fair, and I also think this could all be a Legionnaires book or a Legion of Superheroes book that has the same Huntress central character sort of working through. So I agree, it is a little bit all over the place, but it is good, and the art is good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that it's I wouldn't say that it's a fair, but to correct famous writers' writing, but I do think that this is kind of has a. I love Huntress, and I think that's a cool kind of mission to go on. And yeah, every once in a while you got to check in with your team. You know what I mean? So I felt like it was a kind of a classic JSA story. Great art too, by the way.
Sorry, guys, my wife just handed me a giant cocktail.
Yeah, fun times.
Woo!
Shouts to my wife.
Yeah.
Shouts to your wife. The Star Wars Inquisitors, #1 from Marvel, written by Rodney Barnes, art by Ramon Rosales. This is following up on the Darth Vader minions from Star Wars Rebels, among other things, as they track down a guy who maybe has the most ridiculous name in the Star Wars universe. I'm blanking on
Come
what it
on,
is.
dude. There's
What's his
so
name?
many crazy names in Star Wars. You're
What's
really
this guy's name again? It's like Trap Raider or something.
No, it's like Tenson Run or something like that.
Jensen Run. I don't know. Nobody named anybody that.
Oh, come on, dude. There's so many crazy names in Star Wars. You think that's a bad name?
Yeah, it's a bad name.
Well, the other thing is they say his name a million times.
Maybe that's it. Yeah.
So it is a little.
what-
There are plenty of goofy names. Yeah, Tensu Run is his name, and the
Tensu
Inquisitor.
Run.
I like the Inquisitor's job is like, hey, do you know this person? No, you don't. Well, I'll kill you. Hey, do you know this person? I'm gonna kill you. I was like, guys, is
It's
your whole
hard
thing?
to find somebody. You know what I mean?
No, they're
term
inquisitors.
Inquisitor.
They're inquisitive.
Yeah.
They're asking questions like, do you know this guy?
And then you have to kill him.
What'd you guys think about this comic, though?
I had a blast with this. I thought this was a lot of fun. First off, sick cover, great art, cool story. I'm enjoying this. I like the Inquisitor versus the Lone Jedi. As far as all the Star Wars
Sorry,
stuff,
his name is Tensu Run.
It's Tensu Run.
yeah, thank
It's
you.
also crazy. Like, there's Tensu Run is mentioned a million times. Then there are like 8 other Jedi here, and this is after all the Jedi have been killed in the Star Wars universe.
But this is
and then
Tensu Run's story. Why you guys hating Tensu Run before Tensu Run can get his say in here?
The
I
other
like the hype.
the other Jedis are killed unceremoniously. His master is killed with very little fanfare, and he seems depressed because he's not Tensu Run. The whole thing, like, I think it is fine. I guess the Inquisitors have the same problem that a lot of Jedi characters have, or Star Wars characters have, where they're like, they don't have personalities besides being like, I'm gonna do this thing. And I'm like, just give us a little bit of something here to hold on to, because
Would you
they
wish
are
after
scary.
he talked to Vader, he like lit up a cigarette and was like, "Man, this is a stressful job."
Smoking is such a great personality choice, and that's becoming my personality. Like, when I don't know what to say, it's just like, poof, light it up.
All right, why don't we move on and talk about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 4th
Yes!
Anniversary Comic Celebration
Come on!
IDW, written by Kevin Eastman, Edgar Allan Poe.
Shouts to Edgar Allan Poe in the credits.
Yeah, come
my guy. Let's go.
Huge get for him. I hope to see more comics from that guy. Jim
Same.
Lawson, Tristan Jones, Gary Carlson, Chris Allen, Eric Burnham, Lloyd Goldfine, Ciro Nieli, Andy Siriano, Tom Waltz, and Rhonda Pattinson. Art by Kevin Eastman, Jim Lawson, Paul Norman, Frank Fisco, Chris Allen, Sarah Meyer, Carrie Randolph, Vero Nieli, Andy Siriano, Michael Dialanis, and Pablo Tenisa. If you couldn't tell from the lineup of folks there, this is a collection of different stories from throughout basically every era of Turtles possible. Pete, you're our main Turtle correspondent. I know you're a little more on the cat side, as we established earlier in the podcast, but I think you could talk about Turtles as well, so take it away.
Okay, first off, the cover is by Eastman and Laird, signed this year, so it's new art, which was very exciting. This might be the first time ever that they signed their names next to each other in over 40 years or whatever it is. I lost my fucking mind at the excitement of that. First story got me very choked up because it very much felt like an old Eastman and Laird comic, and the fact that it was, a Edgar Allan Poe poem did not deter my excitement. I just felt like this was very cool and artistic, and I loved it. And I think what was great about the collection of stories is any of the iterations of the animated cartoons, you got a story for, which I thought was very cool and thoughtful. They covered a ton of ground as far as celebrating the Turtles. So if you're a fan of any iteration of the Turtles, you got a shout out in this. Also, Stan Sakai did a nice pin-up in the back, and with Usagi Yojimbo, which was really cool. The nostalgia factor is through the roof on this. I got my TMET fix, and it was just a fucking blast.
This was fun. It was great to see Panthro with holding his bow staff out there with the guys.
Fucking piece of shit.
Yeah, having fun. I will say it's crazy, the Edgar Allan Poe story. Like, it looks like it was drawn on a bar napkin, and it has, and I mean that in the there's so many different styles that sort of contribute to the mythology, especially of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, that have been around forever. And I like that this sort of absorbed all of them and got us into some of the wilder iterations. There's one story later where Donatello turns into a boat and no one bats an eyelash. There's this great line. That I thought really stood out. We need to find Master Splinter. He's disappeared since he became a bat. And they literally are just like, yeah, we got to catch that bat, our bat friend. It's just wild. And this is a testament to just how the comics medium can absorb any story, and this has become literally the highest selling comic of all time is Turtles right now, of this time anyway, and it just continues to go, and then this shows the breadth of work underlying that.
I think they're doing a great job of getting us hyped for the new Turtles run by Jason Aaron.
I agree with everything you guys said. One point of clarification. So I don't remember which is which. I think it was Kevin Eastman penciled it and then Laird inked it. They actually did that a couple of years ago on a title before. I don't know if the credit was there the way that you're saying, Pete, but I also thought this was the first time they'd worked together, even though it was separately in a while, but they actually did it before a couple of years ago. The other thing, just in terms of the Edgar Allan Poe of it all, I was curious, in terms of classic Turtle stories that Edgar Allan Poe has done, do you prefer the Telltale Pizza or the Pizza of Amontillado? Which is your favorite, Pete?
Oh, Pizza Amontillado, there's no question. But
it's crazy to get bricked
speaking
up.
of that, I mean,
Sure.
that really felt like the old Turtles, even though it was a poem. Mm-hmm. I think it speaks to the artistry of what they created and how beautiful it really is.
Yeah. Poe, Eastman, Laird. It's glad they're back together.
Come on, man. I'm getting a tattoo that says that.
I hope he can stay on it, because I would love to see what Poe does with Shredder. I think we would like.
Oh, come on, dude.
I love Poe. Poe taking over turtles is going to be crazy, man. A lot of suddenly all the turtles are having sex with their cousin. They're married to their cousin. That's
no,
crazy.
don't.
But it's okay because of the time period.
That's the time period. Present day New York, the time period. Rudy Giuliani's signing
It's okay.
up.
It's okay. My Adventures with Superman, #2 from DC Comics, written by Jesse Campbell, art by Pablo M. Collar. In this issue, we're continuing to follow Superman as he does his Superman thing. This is taking place between season 1 and season 2 of the series. They are trying to rescue an Amazo robot, which, if you're not watching the series, all the continuity is a little tweaked and different in the show. As with the first issue, I think they do a great job of channeling the show here. But what do you guys think?
Yeah, this is really fun. The art set's such a cool tone for this. And great action, great art. Enjoyable to see the kind of young Clark struggling with stuff. I thought this was a cool take.
It's like Batman the Animated Series if it was an animated series called My Adventures of Superman.
Oh, great take.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good take. I hadn't really thought about
The
that.
Danger Team is kicking butt.
Very fun. I really enjoy this. Public Domain #6 from Image Comics by Chip Zdarsky. This title is finally back after a long break, and we are following our main family who has taken over publishing rights of the Domain. However, they are sharing it with the Marvel-esque company that also has publishing rights to the Domain. We are continuing to be very inside baseball here. But I thought this was great. This is maybe the funniest issue of this title so far.
Yes.
I think it's really hit its stride here. And I love the family dynamic. I love what they're saying metatextually. And just to give a little bit of a preview, next week we are going to get the actual comic book, The Domain, coming out.
Yes.
Which I think is a very fun, I don't know what you would call it, but very fun tie-in. Sure.
There you go. Yeah.
I agree. This was super funny. Great to see it back. And the fact that we get them sort of workshopping the character designs for this new spin of the Domain. And literally that's the last panel. And then the next page is a preview for the comic featuring those same characters. I was like, very smartly done from Chip Zdarsky. And yeah, I like these characters, and I love the sort of target. He's really taking on the comic book industry with the writing here, but still doing it in a fun way.
Yeah, I mean, not to sound like a broken record here, but I really like the family dynamics, and it gets pretty meta, but it's still very good. Sometimes that kind of pulls you out, but they walk that line in such a good way. Really solid art and very enjoyable. It's kind of a little bit of a slow burn, but man, it's worth it.
Wolverine Deep Cut, #1 from Marvel, written by Chris Claremont, art by Edgar Salazar. This fits in a wild place in continuity. Back in the day when the X-Men were in the Outback, Wolverine at one
Steakhouse?
point... Yes. Wolverine says, I want a bloomin' onion. And they're like, of course you do. You're at Outback Steakhouse. And this is showing him eating a bloomin' onion for 22 pages, which is
Worth it.
beautiful. Just
Each little
absolutely
piece is like a claw. Think about it.
Think about it,
A
man.
fried claw.
Wolverine says, hey, I got to go do something. I'll see you guys later, and leaves. You never see what he's doing. But in the meantime, the Reavers attack the X-Men. They all disappear or are taken off the board in horrific ways or go through the siege perilous. And when Wolverine comes back, he is alone up against the Reavers, except for Jubilee is there and ends up helping him in this Die Hard-esque situation. One of the most classic stories in comic book history. So this is Chris Claremont being like, hey, let me show you the mission that Wolverine went on. And of course, since it is the Outback era of the X-Men, set in the Australian Outback, he is going to a snowy area and fighting Sabretooth in the woods, just like we wanted.
Yep.
Finally.
All jokes aside, I thought this was a really great issue. I love the old school feel of this, and it feels very, of its time in a good way. It was nice to kind of go back and revisit this. And I loved it. I love the Wolverine versus the Sabretooth, spoilers, but clone. And I thought it was really badass and fun to see kind of Wolverine handling business.
I think this is a great spot for Chris Claremont to be working in, and it seems like we're going to continue on with some more stories in this same vein. So that's cool. My favorite parts were the not Sabretooth fights. It was the little sections we get of Wolverine history, literally, like the other book we talked about, where we get to like his little play fight with Storm. I thought was great, and I want to see more of those moments alongside sort of showing Wolverine fighting Sabretooth in other places.
Yeah, I thought this was fine. I wasn't too subtle when I was talking about it earlier, but like, this feels like a story that could take place literally anywhere in Wolverine's history at absolutely any point. It does not have to be the Outback era. Like, I need to see that setting, and I was excited about seeing that setting, but this is the story we're getting, and Chris Claremont knows how to write a story at this point. Edgar Salazar knows how to draw it, so that's all good with me. Poison Ivy, number 24 from DC Comics, written by G. Willow Wilson, art by Haining. Poison Ivy died last issue. Will she come back? Yeah, of course she's going to come back. And in this issue, we watch that happen. I mean, the title is continuing, so we know that's going to happen. But
spoilers, geez.
A lot of stuff gets really wrapped up here involving her relationship with Harley, her relationship with the HR lady. There's a great joke, and I won't take credit for this because I did not catch it the first time through, but there's a great House of M reference that happens here. At one point, Poison Ivy, the entire series for 24 issues at this point, has been dealing with this mycelial mushroom infection that she's been using to kill the world. She's purged herself of that by the end here. She tells Janet from HR, I believe.
Janet from HR.
Janet from HR. She says, no more mushrooms. And the panel is drawn exactly like the Scarlet Witch saying no more mutants panel. Very fun inside joke.
Cool. Yeah, I thought this was a blast. I mean, what a cool ending. Very touching. Love the art. Great story. Great use of Grundy. This was a blast of an arc. Really love this team. Amazing book.
Yeah.
Am I showing no more mushrooms?
Yep. Close enough.
Nice. This is so good. The fact that this is clearly the end of this long, great story, but we get to see a next and we get to see a new chapter is so exciting because I've loved every bit of this. I think it's one of the best books that DC's putting out. So happy to see that we're going to get more in a new direction.
Let's talk about these next two titles together. Radiant Black, number 29 from Image Comics, written by Kyle Higgins and Joe Clark, art by Eduardo Ferragamo, and Radiant Black 29.5 from Image Comics, written by Kyle Higgins and Joe Clark, art by Marcelo Costa. We've been following two tracks, as in one, Radiant Black is Nathan, in the other it is Mitchell, as they are fighting against this robot invasion and trying to prove themselves worthy. Here, big spoilers here, but we get to see these two timelines cross over, these two parallel worlds, in a wild and shocking fashion. They continue to reinvent what this could do every single issue across the board, and I am absolutely loving this.
Yeah, I was just so excited to see this kind of like... I before this hated 0.5s and all sorts of things, but when I saw Radiant Black did a 0.5 for what was happening, I got very excited, which was very new for me because the story that they're telling is so epic. I was excited for more and for a different point of view, and I love how they're doing storytelling and how they're pushing the form and trying new stuff in such a cool, creative way. This is epic, and they're treating it as epic as they should. Love all the action, loves all the different points of view and sides that they're taking time to really kind of take care of. Just can't say enough great stuff about the things that they are accomplishing as a comic book. This is really badass.
I feel like this title is always just so aware of where the audience is with the book. And this, the way they split this, like, was so smart because it made us be like, oh, wow. Oh, Nathan's doing better in this one. And oh, Marshall's doing better in this one. Or he's doing way worse. And then we sort of, they come together, or they're starting to come together. And it's like, oh, that wasn't, obviously it wasn't like who's better. But they literally pit the two heroes against each other so smartly. And it just, it got us to lean in and be into 2 comics when it was 1, for every other issue before that. So just really well done from that perspective. And I am just on board with this story. It feels like it's gaining in momentum leading toward a big event coming up in like a month, I believe, right?
Yeah, the Supermassive, you mean?
Yeah.
This year's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're talking about the Supermassive.
The Supermassive.
The Supermassive. That's what I'm celebrating this weekend with fireworks.
There we go. Beyond the Pale, number 2 from Dark Horse Comics, written by Christopher Emgard, art by Tomas Era. This is following a journalist who goes to Vietnam and finds there's demons there. That's basically it.
There's monsters.
There be monsters. We were, I think, into but slightly confused by the first issue. How did you feel about issue number 2?
I felt like they did a better job with issue 2. I kind of got an understanding of how they work a little bit and what's going on. So I'm enjoying this. Very cool cover, kind of crazy story, a lot going on. But I'm impressed with the kind of movement that we have. We've seen numerous stories about Vietnam, the war, all that kinds of stuff. So this is a little bit of a different take, and artistically, it's impressive.
I really like the character, our main character, and the other characters around her have been cool. And she's a great narrator to sort of ride along with as she is slowly going from the horrors of war to the horrors of demons and probably a conspiracy, it feels like, built around these demons that she's uncovering.
The Holy Roller, number 7 from Image Comics, written by Rick Remender, Andy Samberg, and Joe Troman, art by Roland Bosky. Hitler is back, and he is coming for the entire world through an app trying to brainwash folks. The only thing that stands up against him is one man and his bowling balls, except he is joined by a bunch of sidekicks in this issue. My big question about this, where is he keeping all of those bowling balls?
Yeah, so you can't have a quiver.
Right? He has multiple.
He has a duffel bag.
He keeps pulling them out, though.
It seemed like he had kind of like a duffel bag.
I don't know.
It'd be hard to get your fingers in each of the holes quickly, I would think.
Well, if you're used to it. Anyways, all that aside, I find this very funny and enjoyable. Love the art, love the action. This is a great comic, and you can hear the comedic voices kind of coming out in this. I'm into this arc now, and I can't wait for the next issue.
It's very funny to me how much this is about an app when it used to be just like a revenge tale about a guy who sort of messed up in his hometown.
You gotta watch your screen time, dude. All right? Sometimes too much screen time is bad for you.
Yeah, what's better? Bowling in a bowling alley. And as you indicated earlier, Pete, smoking cigarettes.
Yeah.
Other thing with this is personality, is what I say. I had the same question about the quiver. Like, how is he carrying these around? But it also occurred to me reading this issue, this comic is Mystery Men, the movie, the Ben Stiller movie that was like sort of the first comic book movie. Some people say, fans say. And this is very much, especially this issue, has big Mystery Men energy.
Predates. I mean, come on, dude.
People call it. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying like there's the fans are like this is the real beginning of the comic book age of movies.
Who says that? Ben Stiller? Does Ben Stiller say that? Janine Garofalo?
Janine's saying it a lot. Janine's saying it a lot.
Okay,
definitely.
she's posted.
The Shoveler. William H.
She
Macy's
posted
like
William
Truth
H.
Social.
Macy's saying it.
William H. Macy. William H. Macy goes to Felicity Huffman in prison and is like, Mystery Men was really the...
Wow.
They got to talk about
That's a
something.
slice of life.
Speaking of slice of life, let's move over to our blood block as we're going to talk about
Blood block.
Come on.
as we're going to talk about all the Blood Hunt titles from Marvel. Ooh, man, so many vampire titles
Come
from
on.
Marvel. Boy, I can't get enough. Just inject it into my veins. Right, Pete?
Yeah,
Wow, so
dude,
many.
this is the best. Let's start off with Doctor Strange, man. I think this was such
Can
a
you
cool...
take over for a little while? Would that be okay?
Oh, Pete
Yeah.
definitely he runs the blood block. Definitely.
Yeah, I run the blood block.
Drink your blood. I sent
just
you
say-
guys, drink all the blood that we are in front of us.
Okay, let me take a blood break. I just think that this is so much fun. Doctor Strange to me is
Sorry, you can't do this. Doctor Strange number 17 from Marvel, written by Jim McKay, art by Pascal Ferrari. You skipped all the stuff. I wrote it down for you and I sent it to you. I thought you were going to read it. In this issue,
That's your job.
Doctor Strange
I'm not trying to
I
take your
know,
job.
but you're in charge of the blood.
You're in charge of the blood block.
Yeah, talking about the blood block, not
And the blood drive.
the boring stuff.
If you heard that clap, anybody, there's a fruit fly and it's driving me insane. Anyway,
That's a blood fly.
blood fly. It's a blood fly block. What am I saying? Doctor Strange's brother is a ghost who has taken over his vampire body, and the only one who can stop him is his ghost dog, who becomes big ghost dog.
Bats.
So there you go. Pete, now you can talk.
Okay, thank you. This was just such a fun. I like Doctor Strange when things are silly and weird and kind of hilarious, and I think this is a perfect example of this. This is a badass issue. I love the spoilers, but the look of the dog god, it was really fun. That Bats turned into just amazing art. Just such a great character design for amping up Bats in such a cool, badass way. I really love the look of it. This was just epic as shit in all the great ways and really just a ton of fun, and I had a blast with it.
I think this will be the strangest of the Blood Hunt crossover books, and I love that for it. Like, it really is, especially since Jed McKay's running the whole event, to sort of, in one of the titles he's also writing, to have it be this, like, Bats becomes a dog god and smashes some stuff, I thought was very fun. I love this title anyway. Pascal Ferry's art is excellent. This is one of my faves from the Bloodlock.
Yeah.
Blood Hunters, number 3 from Marvel, written by Sean Kelly McKeever, Josh Trulio, and Erica Schultz. Art by Lan Medina, Claire Rowe, and Bernard Chang. We are getting 3 titles from throughout the Blood Hunt, with the backup story eventually teeing up a ongoing Blood Hunter series from Erica Schultz. But what did you guys think about this?
Yeah, I thought this was really cool Doom stuff. Love the reveal at the end. There's spoilers. I thought it was awesome to see Hallows Eve. I thought that was just such a cool reveal. Sometimes you get a reveal and you're like, but I was like, oh yeah, great. So that was really fun. Fantastic art. I'm still enjoying the hunt here, the blood hunt. So I thought this was a blast.
Pete really hyping the Blood Hunt throughout the Blood Block. I agree. The Erica Schultz Hallows Eve stuff, she is going to continue to make this character matter every which way she can, and this was cool. But I will say the second story, which was about a vampire cow, really caught me off guard, and I really enjoyed it.
So good. The Hell Cow story, it's basically...
Yes.
Barely has anything to do with Blood Hunt. It's just a guy who ends up working at the farm where Hell Cow lives, which is this insane vampire demon cow character for the Marvel Universe. Great. Like, great Tales from the Crypt style story.
Yes, exactly.
In the middle of this thing. So much fun.
And the only other thing I would say is, like, the first story features Doctor Doom, who I think is going to come out of this as a changed character who seems like is going to become the Sorcerer Supreme and already has, and Doctor Strange is going to be depowered in some capacity. So curious that feels like a central focus of this Blood Hunt.
Black Panther, Blood Hunt, number 3 from Marvel, written by Cheryl Lynn Eaton, art by Fareed Karimi. And are we eaten with the spoon, Pete?
Oh, boy. Yes, I feel like this is cool. Got a kind of epic feel to it with dealing with we're going back and forth here between the gods and Black Panther. And so, yeah, I feel like this is, first off, amazing art, very interesting story. And I'm enjoying this issue and what's going on. It's fun to kind of check in, with Khonshu and the gods. You know what I mean? Do a god check. You know what I mean?
God check. We just did a dog god check. This issue feels like it's emphasizing all the confusing extraneous parts of the Blood Hunt, where it's like, don't forget about these Atlantean temple we got to deal with. And it's very Varney focused. Again, a character
Varney
is not hitting with everybody. That's probably where I am with this. So I wish I want to move past this issue to get to some of the larger implications of the blood hunt and not deal with the specifics of Varney's Atlantean heritage.
Varney!
And I just want to mention on the God check front, if you're hot, they're hot, let your gods inside. Miles Morales, Spider-Man #2 from Marvel, written by Cody Ziegler, art by Brent Peoples and Daniel Picciotto. Miles Morales is a vampire, but that doesn't seem to be affecting him too much.
Not slowing him down at all, weird.
Yeah. Sometimes you can be a vampire and still do your job, and Miles Morales is a great example of that. Great cover. I loved Miles Morales teaming up with Bloodline here. Fun with the high five action. This is great. And then Dracula showing up, and I just think this is a great kind of. I love the action and kind of pace it had. And I just think it was a blast to kind of hang out with these characters and, kind of move things along as far as the blood hunt is concerned.
The blood hunt continues. I agree with what we were saying before a second ago. Like, why is Miles should be a little bit more messed up, and similar to Black Panther, where like they're both vampires and they're both like, well, I'm still doing my business, not drinking much blood either, but just a little bit distracted from my regular job. So that is strange. And I would also
First off, Justin, just being a vampire doesn't define you. You know what I mean? You can have many sides to you, and just because you're a vampire doesn't mean you're always a blood. You know what I mean? You can have a normal life and still be a vampire, okay?
I think that's technically not true in any capacity when it comes to any vampire story. But I also, where are we with Miles with the sword? That he has this sort of sting sword.
I don't know. It's a lot of stuff going on with him, I guess, right now. I don't love the fact that he is a vampire and that apparently is going to continue past this event.
Really?
But also, based on the solicits, it seems like at least that's going to emotionally affect him going forward, which we don't really get in this issue at all. I will say I always love an end of an issue where, like you were saying, Dracula shows up and he's like, come on, guys, we've got to go fight the blood hunt. And it was like, continue the blood hunt #5. And I'm like, really looking forward to seeing you guys in the background of a montage sequence where you're fighting a bunch of vampires.
Them just arriving at the blood hunt. They're like, hey, you guys here for the blood hunt? Us too. We just came from a fight with Murmur. And this dude, the vampire they fought in this with the long tongue or whatever, he calls them the mycelaricious one over and over again. I was like, what is this word? It means swift moving. Oh. And I just did not understand why.
Shout out to the Swifties.
That's why we read comics, is to learn new words. Yeah. Werewolf by Night, Blood Hunt #1 from Marvel, written by Jason Liu, art by Adam Gorham. Again, very tangential to the Blood Hunt here, but we were following the new Werewolf by Night, who is not Jack Russell, as he tangles with a bunch of vampires, kind of, occasionally. I mean, there's a lit'll bit of it in here. What'd you guys think?
All right. Well, first off, badass cover alert. Holy shit, that was very cool. And then you get a bunch of werewolf fun in here. You know what I mean? Sometimes, that's what I was going to start talking about. Oh, okay. Sometimes, music can tame the beast. It was nice to see that somebody can be a werewolf and still jam out the tunes and have a normal life. I thought this was a fun kind of slice of life of what it's like being a werewolf and trying to, make a difference in the world.
Slice of life. This, like the Werewolf by Night MCU special, stands alone from this event and is sort of fun, but sort of you're like, what are we doing here? I will say I really liked the panel when he woke up with a leg, and it was like, whoa, weird.
It's not to backseat right here, but I was like, cool. I'm looking forward to watching werewolves fight vampires, and Werewolf by Night almost seems tangential to this story, and I think there's a little bit of werewolf vampire fighting, but for the most part it's demons and there's other characters and there's a lot of stuff going on.
Roulette is the main character of this story.
Yes. So a little overcomplicated for me. X-Men Blood Hunt, Psylocke #1 from Marvel, written by Steve Fox, art by Lin Yoshi. We're headed over to Japan, where, once again, maybe this is the theme of this week, not a lot of vampires. As it turns out, nighttime brings out a lot of Japanese demon-type characters, and ultimately this is about Psylocke exorcising one of them. I like this. I thought the designs of the monsters were scary, but again, I'm like, why is this a blood hunt title?
Because there's vampires and monsters and stuff happening in here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sometimes you can just do stuff off of the main kind
I
of
agree
thing.
with you, Alex.
Before you get into shitting on it, let me just say some nice things.
It does feel that way.
I felt like this was a kind of cool look at different kind of monster designs and different kind of things going on with the little Japan kind of twist on it. And I thought the art was very impressive, and I thought it was pretty scary with the line like, "Am I pretty?" That kind of echoing thing. I thought they used that really well. And I can understand what you're saying as far as I want more of the blood hunt, because I am having a ton of blooding fun with the blood hunt. But, it's nice to get a Japan side story of like, hey, it's nighttime. That's what the kind of the things that's happening. And that's enough for me.
And this is the first time it's been nighttime in Japan, I believe, in this.
Well, it wasn't
they were
supposed to be nighttime. It was,
they were
it was
surprised by it.
Yeah, because of the moon's gone.
The land of the rising sun. That's their whole thing, is not night.
Yeah, it's constantly coming up.
The thing of this is, I thought it was a cool story and scary, but I do agree with you, this is not tying into the blood hunt at all. But
it's happening at the same time as the blood hunt, though, so that counts.
Exactly, and that's how events work. When you come to my barbecue, if you're in Japan fighting a demon, it's still part of my barbecue. So shouts to that. Enjoy my blood.
If somebody in Japan stops and goes, "Hey, I wonder how Justin's barbecue is going," it counts. It counts.
Yeah, it counts. Yeah. It counts. That's why Dan Quayle was at my party, my barbecue. Before he died.
He brought the potatoes.
Spoilers.
Shazam number 13 from DC Comics, written by Josie Campbell, art by Mike Norton. Billy Batson is missing, and the Shazamily is going after him, focusing on Freddie Freeman a little bit more in this issue. I continue to love this run. Josie Campbell nails every single one of these characters, makes them interesting and distinct from each other. The conflict between Billy Batson and the Captain, as their personalities become more separate, is really interesting as well. And Mike Norton's cartoony style art is absolutely killing it. This is great.
Yeah,
I agree. This run has really popped since Josie took over, and really liking it.
Yeah, I agree. This is kind of a classic Shazam story. Fantastic art. It's got a great feel to it.
The Last Mermaid, number 5 from Image Comics by Derek Kirkgib. In this issue, our Last Mermaid is tentatively forming a friendship with this dude with one eye who is taking you through a wasteland, ostensibly to try to find a safe harbor for the apocalypse they're in. But in the meantime, they encounter a bunch of mutants, Mad Max style. The art in this book is gorgeous. The storytelling is great. This is one of the best books on the stand. Do pick it up if you're not.
Wow.
I think so.
Alex going hard for it.
What do you feel? Really good.
How do you feel like the main driver for this story is the Last Mermaid is in like a sort of a mini aquarium that has legs and arms, walking around. But the whole thing is it keeps getting too much toxicity. Mm-hmm. So the plot of the story is this mermaid is drowning in her own like pee.
Yeah,
Alex.
Yes,
and you're like,
that's what fish do. You got to clean the tank.
Yeah, man, you got to clean the tank,
and you know what?
Justin.
Comics got to clean the tank of all the dirty piss they got going on all over the place.
Yeah,
with their
a bunch of piss comics.
Event storytelling.
Yeah, the blood hunt.
I think
piss chase.
Justin,
it's really the piss chase is what you're saying.
You're forgetting about also there's like a little, one of those little shrimpy.
Axolotl.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
thank you.
It's an axolotl named Lottie. This is my son.
Maybe it's a sea monkey. It's a sea monkey.
No, it's an axolotl. My son is obsessed with axolotls. I told him this title has an axolotl, and he is obsessed with this book. He loves it, and keeps asking about Lottie and what's going on with Lottie.
And axolotls drink pee?
They drink pee and eat bones, according to this issue.
Lottie Dottie, I likes to party, and this comic is killing it. And I agree with Zalbatron that this is a glorious comic. And
sorry, Pete, did my wife bring you a cocktail as well?
Yes, yeah. And thank her for me, please. I appreciate it.
I'm gonna tell my son that, and he's gonna start saying "Lottie Lottie, I likes to party."
Yo, I want to clip
Lottie,
that.
Lottie.
That's good enough to clip. That should be on a button that we press and we hear that. And I want that in my life. Lottie Lottie, I like to potty.
All right, why don't we excuse me? Why don't we wrap up here with 2 books? These were sent over to us by Storm King Comics. Storm King Comics, if you don't know, is John Carpenter's comic book imprint that is slowly building up with a bunch of horror comic books. These are 2 graphic novels, both by Steve Niles, that were sent over. So not to talk to them about them together, but I think we can in terms of what this publisher is doing. We got Dark and Twisted, The Killing Hole, written by Steve Niles, art by Trevor Denham, and The God List, written by Steve Niles and Scott Hampton, art by Scott Hampton. The first book is a slice of life tale about 2 kids, 2 loners, 2 outcasts who become friends. They dig a ditch in the woods where they hang out in, but some of their darker impulses come out. And the second book is basically like the Da Vinci Code, except with a
That's what we're solving this summer.
We're gonna do it, except with a book that is, I don't know, again, like
different. It's a different book.
It's a different book. There you go. What did you guys think about this? What do you think about what Storm King Comics is putting out based on these books?
Well, the God List, I tore through. I thought this was such a cool kind of like original story, and was such a kind of creative, fun ride. I thought it was very impressive. The art, such a great read, and I had a real blast with it. And, go ahead.
I was going to say, like, I really like, just from a overall perspective, I really like it feels like Storm King is saying, like, hey, let's let these stories breathe. Tell these stories, let them be as long as they need to be, and sort of come out as they feels natural or organic to them. The Killing Hole, I thought, was really good horror storytelling. The God List, I thought it was going to be a horror story, and it was something else completely, but really took us on a journey that I did not expect. And the end, also did not expect that.
Yeah,
but in a good way, right? I thought it was great.
I generally enjoyed The God List. It was ridiculous, over-the-top action movie with some crazy details throughout. But to my money, not to get too effusive, The Killing Hole is maybe the best thing I've read from Steve Niles in years, I think.
Agree.
It is shockingly intimate. It's very dark and very upsetting and very realistic, but the characterizations are great. I think anybody who has felt like a loader, there's a lot that's relatable there, even though it takes things way, way farther. But it felt very intimate, very, very human. It is not quite as funny, but it feels like a little bit like a Stand By Me type thing. Great book. I would highly recommend picking this up because I was so surprised by this and so bowled over. I know Steve Niles from his more straightforward horror work. This definitely leans into some horrific stuff, but I thought this was excellent.
It felt really personal in a great way, and it reminded me of like very horrifying adult things happening, but there's a child, like the idea of like, oh, we're gonna build a fort by digging a hole in the ground. When I was like 10, I was like, that's what I'm doing. I'm gonna build a fort in the ground because that's what you have access to. And so like the way that progressed really pulled me along, and it felt like it had a real personal edge to it. Maybe for Steve, but it hit my personal edge anyway.
Yep. There you go. Thanks for sending those along, Storm King Comics, and thank you all for listening. If you'd like to support this podcast and all the podcasts we do, patreon.com/comicbookclub. Also, we do a live show every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. to Facebook and YouTube. Come hang out. We would love to chat with you about comics. Apple, Spotify, Android, or the app of your choice. To subscribe, listen, and follow the show at Comic Book Live on Twitter/X, Comic Book Club Live on TikTok and Instagram, comicbookclublive.com. For this podcast, many more. Until next time, we'll see you at the Comic Book Club.
Fleecs to Seeley because Panthro does machines. Good night.